Welcome to Zoe Stories. I'm 8 weeks pregnant. I never meant for any of this to become a secret that could swallow me whole. My name is Ayan, and until a few months ago my life had a simple, stubborn rhythm. Mornings at the design firm, late nights sketching logos, weekends hidden away in thrift shops searching for something pretty I could never bring myself to wear in daylight. I'm careful, quiet, a man who smiles too fast to hide his nerves. I'm also, quietly, a cross-dresser, not for a fetish, not for attention, but because when I put on a soft dress and a pair of shoes that click just right, I find a version of myself that feels less brittle. It's the only time my edges soften. Mia knows parts of me she thinks she knows. She is the kind of woman who notices small things. A new mug in the cupboard, a line of tension in my jaw, the way I tuck my hair behind my ear when I'm lying. We've been together 3 years. She's brilliant and blunt, and has a laugh that drags all the weight out of a room. She works nights sometimes at a hospital 2 trains away, which gives me stretches of solitude I have learned to live inside. Those nights are when I indulge myself the most, the lamp low, a playlist on shuffle, the apartment all mine. Those nights are when I am not Ayan with his spreadsheets and polite emails. Those nights I slip into a different skin. How did I start? It wasn't a rebellion. It began like curiosity, a sweater that fit wrong, a blouse I borrowed once for a costume party and kept in the back of my closet for 2 years like a secret postcard from someone else. The first time I wore heels alone in my small bathroom, I nearly fell. Not from the height, but from how the mirror showed me an angle of my face I'd only seen in dreams. I felt complicated and delighted, and painfully exposed. After that first time, it wasn't about the clothes alone. It was a ritual. Choosing, shaping, becoming. Makeup was its own small miracle. With one stroke of face I'd always thought flat came to life. I'd sit there and study myself like a stranger, feeling both thief and artist. Work is predictable and kind of dull in a comforting way. My colleagues see me as dependable and slightly nerdy. My family is essential but conservative, not malicious, just careful with labels. I've never told them. I convinced myself this was harmless. Mia and I fall into routines. Dinners, weekend lists, the tiny tenderness of sharing our toothbrushes without saying anything. She knows I keep certain things to myself. I assume some things are private for both of us. And for a long time it worked. 3 months ago, everything shifted. The pregnancy test that sits in a drawer now was an accident, a misread minute in the pharmacy aisle when Mia and I were distracted and tired. She found out before I did. She always does, and her hands turned into a kind of trembling I'd never seen. The first night she told me, we sat on the couch under a blanket like 2 conspirators. Her laugh came out strangled. "We're going to be parents," she said, and the words were both a promise and a verdict. Part of me fizzed with a fierce, unexpected joy so sharp it hurt. Another part of me recoiled. How do you become a parent when your private pieces might not fit into the neat box people expect? That was the beginning of the pressure, the quiet tightening that threaded through our apartment. Mia wanted a plan, prenatal vitamins, a doctor, a nesting Pinterest board full of neutral tones and breathable cotton. I wanted to keep certain nights to myself, to preserve the ritual that, in its small way, kept me whole. We spoke, but some conversations are conversations with edges. Words stop at the corners. I watched the way she placed her hand on her belly, sometimes, and felt a rush of love, so raw it left me breathless. I wanted to be present, to be honest. And I wanted to be the person who could fold into both roles, the expectant father and the man who disappears into heels and lipstick when the world sleeps. The threat of being found out was always there, thinner than a hair but stronger than gravity. Mia works late, yes, but she also begins her shifts early sometimes and comes home for a broken nap between calls. Neighbors knock for packages. Friends drop by with casseroles and questions that feel like tests. The universe arranges itself in tiny ways that could expose the life I hide in dresser drawers and under the bed. The thought makes my stomach turn in a specific kind of fearful exhilaration, part dread, part the electric possibility of being seen. I tell myself I will be honest when the time is right. I tell myself I can balance these things. But secrets are living things. They breed, they expand. On a Tuesday evening, 3 weeks before the moment that will change everything, I stood in our bedroom with a dress in my hands and Mia's pregnancy calendar taped to the door. The dress was a pale blue, the color of hospital gowns and forget-me-nots and fragile promises. I had bought it at a thrift store and mended a small tear in the hem with a trembling needle because mending felt more secure than buying something new. I set the dress on the bed and imagined how it would fall on me, how the fabric would soften the square of my shoulders. The apartment hummed with the city outside. Someone on the street played classical music on a cheap speaker. I made a cup of tea and sat on the edge of the bed, the dress between my knees like contraband. There are contradictions that live inside me. When I'm in my cross-dressing skin, I feel whole in ways I can't explain, like I'm finally reading the right edition of a book. But there's also shame, learned from movies and the way people mock others without thinking, sharpness that enters a room like cold air. I remember once, years ago, overhearing a colleague joke about effeminate men and feeling my chest crush. After that, I learned how to make myself small, how to laugh along, how to tuck the oddness into the back pocket of my life. Yet in the mirror, late at night, that oddness became something luminous. That night, I put the dress on. The fabric settled against my skin like a secret handshake. I painted my lips with a shade Mia had loved, and for a moment the apartment dissolved. The mirror didn't lie. It offered me an unedited view. I smoothed my hair, buttoned the dress, and felt an absurd surge of peace. At the same time, a prickle ran across my arms, the awareness that Mia could come home any minute, that a friend could knock, that a package might arrive with a thud that sounded like an accusation. And then my phone buzzed. A text from Mia, running early, might be home in 20. My heart dropped into a hollow I didn't know I had. 20 minutes is a small, sharp window. It is the exact amount of time between being myself and being exposed. I stared at the screen, at the clock, at the dress, and I realized how precarious my balance had become. The life inside those drawers and the life we were building as parents were both real. Both wanted to exist. That is where this story starts. Here, with a dress, a test, a timeline taped to our door, and a phone buzzing like a small drumbeat of fate. The next choices I make will not only reveal who I am to Mia, but will test the fragile architecture of trust between us. I am terrified. I am excited. Mostly, I am painfully, beautifully unsure. The next day started with a hangover made of guilt and leftover perfume. The faint scent of lipstick lingered in the air, no matter how many times I opened the windows. The blue dress, now neatly folded under a pile of jeans, seemed to hum in silence, as if it was waiting for me to come back. Mia moved through the apartment like sunlight, calm and focused. She didn't notice the faint traces of mascara I had scrubbed off too fast, or maybe she did and decided not to mention it. That's her way. She observes, collects pieces of information, and stores them in a quiet corner of her mind. "You were up late?" she asked over breakfast. I nodded, pretending to scroll through my phone. Couldn't sleep. Work deadline. Her eyes narrowed, soft but sharp. "You look different today." I froze. Just for a heartbeat. The spoon in my hand paused midair. "Different?" "Yeah." She smiled and brushed it off, stirring her tea. "Maybe it's the lighting." My heart didn't stop pounding until she left for her shift. When the door clicked shut, I exhaled so hard it hurt. The apartment was mine again, my sanctuary, my stage. I walked back to the bedroom, pulled the dress from its hiding place, and held it close. The fabric felt like a secret lover's whisper. Every thread carried a pulse of defiance and danger. I wasn't planning to wear it again so soon, but something inside me, something reckless, pushed me toward it. Maybe it was the fear of being caught that made the act feel addictive. Maybe it was the quiet craving for control, for softness, in a life that was quickly slipping into responsibility and schedules. That day, I transformed slowly. Every step deliberate. Every brushstroke precise. Foundation, powder, blush, they blurred the boundaries of who I was supposed to be. The reflection in the mirror shifted, becoming someone more confident, more expressive, someone who looked like they belonged in the light. When I slipped into the dress again, I noticed something I hadn't before. The way it framed my figure, the subtle sway of the hem, the light shimmer under the lamp. I stood there and thought, maybe this version of me isn't wrong. Maybe it's just incomplete without acceptance. But the more beautiful I felt, the heavier the guilt grew. I caught my reflection and whispered, "What am I doing?" The mirror didn't answer. I heard the faint buzz of my phone again, this time a message from Mia. "Doctor's appointment today at 4. Can you come with me?" My chest tightened. I looked at the clock. 3:10 p.m. I had 50 minutes to erase the woman in the mirror. Panic fluttered through me like trapped birds. I rushed to wipe off the makeup, but mascara doesn't disappear easily. It clings. So does lipstick. So does the faint smell of foundation. My hands trembled as I pulled off the dress, shoved it into a laundry bag, and changed into jeans and a hoodie. When Mia walked through the door, I was pacing the living room, pretending to read emails. She smiled, touched her belly lightly. That small gesture that reminded me of what was real, what was growing between us. "Ready?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, forcing a grin. At the clinic, everything felt surreal. The hum of the fluorescent lights, the faint antiseptic scent, all of it pressed against the back of my skull. The doctor congratulated us, asked questions, handed Mia pamphlets. I nodded when I had to. My mind, though, was still half in that mirror, half in that other version of me. On the way back home, Mia reached over and rested her head on my shoulder. "You're quiet today," she said softly. "Just tired." "I get it. It's a lot," she murmured. "You've been so supportive, Ayan. I don't know what I'd do without you." Her words should have made me feel proud. Instead, they twisted like a knife. Because she didn't know me, not all of me. She loved a version of me that was edited, censored, safe. When we got home, she went straight to nap. Pregnancy exhaustion had made her drowsy at strange hours. I sat beside her, watching her breathe, and felt a wave of something that was equal parts love and dread. I went to the laundry room quietly, opened the bag, and stared at the dress again. The faint smell of perfume was still there. I didn't put it in the wash. I couldn't. I hung it behind me as old coats, where it would be safe. Later that night, when she was asleep, I sat on the balcony with a cup of tea. The city below was noisy and bright, but my world had narrowed to two parallel lines that would soon collide: the man she believed in and the woman I was becoming. I thought about telling her, about sitting down and saying everything, the cross-dressing, the makeup, the thrill and fear of it. But then I imagined her reaction. Would she look at me with pity? Disgust? Confusion? Would she trust me to raise a child if she thought I was different? A drop of rain hit the railing, and I realized I was crying. The next morning brought routine again. Mia in the kitchen, humming. Me pretending nothing was wrong. But there was a moment, small, fragile, when she looked at me differently. "You've been distant lately," she said quietly. "You can talk to me, you know that, right?" I nodded, swallowing hard. "Yeah, I know." She smiled, kissed my cheek, and went to take a shower. I stood there, frozen, with my heart pounding like a drum. As soon as I heard the water running, I went to the bedroom. The dress still hung there like temptation. I ran my fingers along the fabric and whispered, "Just once more." I didn't know it then, but that decision, that small act of defiance, would be the beginning of everything unraveling. Because when Mia stepped out of the shower 20 minutes later, dripping and smiling, she noticed something I hadn't. A faint shimmer of pink lipstick on my coffee mug. And her expression, that curious, calculating look, told me she'd seen enough to start asking questions I wasn't ready to answer. Mia didn't say anything right away. She just stood there with a coffee mug in her hand, her hair damp and clinging to her shoulders, eyes flicking between the lipstick stain and my face. That silence was worse than shouting. It was heavy, stretching long enough to make the air feel thick. Finally, she set the mug down. "You had someone over?" My heart jumped into my throat. "What? No. Of course not." She tilted her head. "Then whose lipstick is this?" The words lodged somewhere behind my ribs. I could almost hear my pulse in my ears. There was no way to explain it that wouldn't sound insane. Maybe it's yours? I said weakly. From earlier? Mia frowned. I haven't worn lipstick in weeks. You know that. I opened my mouth, but no words came. She waited, and when she realized I had nothing, she sighed, picked up the mug, and rinsed it under the tap. The silence between us wasn't angry yet, just cautious. Suspicious. She turned to me, soft but probing. You're sure there's nothing you want to tell me, Ayan? That question should have been easy. I should have said no and meant it. Instead, I hesitated the smallest pause, but she caught it. Mia always catches the small things. Her lips parted, like she was about to ask more, but her phone buzzed, a message from her friend at the hospital. She sighed, grabbed her bag, and said, "We'll talk later." The door closed behind her, leaving a kind of ringing in my ears. I sank onto the couch and buried my face in my hands. For a few minutes, I just sat there, the weight of it pressing into me. She knew something. Maybe not what, but something. And the more she wondered, the closer she'd get to the truth. I looked toward the bedroom, toward that blue dress, still hanging between coats like a secret ghost. For the rest of the day, I couldn't focus on anything. Every shadow felt like it was watching me. Every reflection reminded me of the double life I'd built out of fragile threads. By evening, I told myself I would throw it all away. The clothes, the makeup, everything. I would lock it in a box and leave it. For Mia. For the baby. For the version of me that was easier to explain. I stood in front of the wardrobe, heart pounding, and reached for the dress. But when I touched it, something inside me rebelled. My throat tightened. I couldn't breathe. I remembered the way it felt on my skin, soft, light, honest. I remembered how calm I'd been when I looked in the mirror, how my shoulders dropped, how the noise in my head went quiet. And I realized, if I threw this away, I wouldn't be freeing myself. I'd be killing something vital. So instead, I hid it better. I pulled a small storage box from the top shelf, tucked the dress neatly inside, added the wig, the heels, the makeup kit, and slid it under the bed. The sound it made against the floorboards was final, like sealing a confession. But the universe has a cruel sense of timing. That same night, Mia called from work. "Can you do me a favor? My mom might drop by to leave some things for the nursery. Just let her in." Her mom. The one woman whose approval Mia cared about most, and the one person who could sniff out a secret from a mile away. I froze. When? Anytime tonight. Tonight? You sure she? But the line clicked. She was already gone. I looked around the apartment, the faint traces of my transformation still lingering. The scent of makeup remover. The hairbrush on the dresser. The shimmer of foundation on the counter. I rushed through the rooms like a man possessed, cleaning, scrubbing, wiping every surface. I threw the trash bag out the window chute, washed the mugs, rearranged the drawers. By the time the doorbell rang, my hands were trembling. I opened the door, trying to breathe normally. "Hi, Beta," Mia's mom said warmly, stepping inside with 2 large shopping bags. Her eyes swept the room, sharp but kind. "You look tired. Everything okay?" "Yeah," I said quickly. "Just work stress." She smiled, walking toward the nursery. "Mia told me you've been helping so much. I'm glad she found someone dependable." The compliment stung. Dependable. Honest. Safe. All the things I wasn't. She set the bags down and looked around. "You've done a lovely job with the place. Very neat." Her gaze lingered on the floor, then the bed. For one terrifying second, I thought she'd noticed the box underneath. But she just smiled again. "I'll tell Mia you're taking good care of her." I walked her to the door, forcing a grin. "Of course." When she left, I collapsed against the wall, shaking. That was too close. Way too close. But the night wasn't done testing me. At 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed again. A text from Mia. "We need to talk when I get home. Don't wait up, but don't go anywhere either." My blood ran cold. I stared at those words until the screen dimmed. The kind of message that doesn't sound angry but feels like a verdict. I paced the apartment, my mind spinning. Did her mom, say something? Did she find something? Or was it just the lipstick stains still haunting her? The box under the bed suddenly felt radioactive, like a bomb waiting to go off. I dropped to my knees, pulled it out, and stared at it. My hands hovered over the lid. If I get rid of it now, maybe everything can go back to normal. But before I could decide, I heard keys in the lock. Mia was home, and the box was still open. I had two choices: hide it or tell her the truth. My fingers trembled as I reached for the lid. But deep down, I already knew this was the point of no return. The door opened with a slow click, and Mia's voice slipped into the apartment before she did. Ayan. I froze, still crouched beside the bed, hands hovering over the half-open box like a thief caught mid-act. My pulse thumped in my throat. For a split second, I thought about sliding it back under, pretending nothing was there, but my muscles wouldn't move. Mia stepped in, setting her bag on the counter. She was exhausted. You could see it in the slump of her shoulders, but her eyes still carried that sharp, assessing gleam, the kind of look that saw through walls. Hey, she said, her voice casual but distant. Did Mom stop by? Yeah, I said quickly, standing so fast I almost tripped over the rug. She brought a few things for the nursery. She nodded, kicked off her shoes, and started toward the bedroom. I moved to intercept her, but it was too late. She brushed past me, her hand brushing the doorknob. My mouth went dry. If she looked even a few inches under the bed, it was over. Mia, I started, voice cracking. She turned slightly. What's wrong? Nothing. You must be tired, right? You should probably rest. But she was already walking into the room. I followed, helplessly watching her sit down on the bed, the same bed beneath which my entire secret life waited to be discovered. Her fingers brushed the blanket, and she frowned. Did you move the bed? No. There's dust on one side, she said softly, eyes narrowing. And the floor looks freshly wiped. I forced a laugh, brittle as glass. I was just cleaning. She looked at me, really looked, and something shifted in her expression. Ayan, what are you hiding? The question landed like a blade. My tongue felt heavy. Every lie I could think of turned to ash before it reached my mouth. I wanted to say nothing. I wanted to tell the truth. Both were impossible. Before I could answer, a sound betrayed me, the faintest clink of a makeup brush rolling inside the box. Mia froze. Her gaze dropped toward the bed, then flicked up to me. Ayan, she said, voice trembling now. What's under there? My silence was its own confession. She knelt slowly, her hands steady, but her breathing uneven. I opened my mouth to stop her, but the words came out too late. She pulled the box out. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The world shrank to that cardboard rectangle sitting between us, the lid slightly open, revealing a flash of blue fabric and a glint of silver heels. Mia blinked once. Twice. Then she lifted the lid. The air in the room seemed to vanish. Inside lay the dress, the wig, the makeup kit, the perfume bottle I thought I'd hidden so well. All the parts of me I'd carefully built in secret were now laid bare in the harsh light of our bedroom. Her hand hovered above the contents, trembling slightly. She looked at the clothes like they were evidence, not of betrayal, but of something she couldn't yet name. Finally, she looked up. Her voice was barely a whisper. Ayan, what is this? My chest tightened. Mia, I can explain. Please do. Her tone wasn't angry. That made it worse. There was confusion, hurt, something like fear, and beneath it all, a quiet plea. Tell me this isn't what I think it is. I sat on the edge of the bed, my hands shaking. It's mine, I said finally. She blinked. Yours? Yes. A pause stretched, long and fragile. I wear them, I said, the words tumbling out before I could second-guess myself. Sometimes, when you're not home. Her eyes widened. You wear them? I nodded, my throat tight. I know how it sounds. It's not what you think. It makes me feel. Feel what? Like myself. The silence that followed was unbearable. Mia looked down again, fingers tracing the hem of the dress. How long? A while, I said softly. Before we found out about the baby. Before everything. She closed her eyes. And you never thought to tell me? I wanted to, I said quickly. So many times.
But I didn't know how.
I thought you'd think I was sick, or lying, or… Her voice cracked, sharp and raw. You thought lying to me was better? That cut deep. I didn't want to lose you, I whispered. You're the only person who's ever made me feel safe. Her eyes glistened. Then why do I feel like I've been living with a stranger? The room was silent except for the faint hum of the city outside. I wanted to reach for her, but she flinched, just slightly, and it was enough to make me stop. She stood up, her breathing uneven. I need some air, Mia. But she was already walking toward the door, clutching her bag like she needed something solid to hold onto. Before she left, she turned back. Her voice was quiet but trembling. You should have trusted me. The door clicked shut and I was alone. The box still sat open on the floor, its contents gleaming faintly under the lamplight, a reflection of the double life that had finally collided. I sat there until the sky began to pale. My hands rested on the blue dress, tracing the stitches I had sewn. Each thread felt heavier now, not just fabric, but the weight of everything I hadn't said. For the first time, the dress didn't feel like liberation. It felt like consequence. But beneath that shame, another feeling began to grow, small, stubborn, and alive. Relief. Because for the first time in my life, someone knew. The morning light crept through the curtains like an unwelcome witness. My head throbbed from a night without sleep. The room was a mess, the box still open, its contents scattered like evidence of a crime. The silence pressed against my chest, thick and suffocating. Every sound outside, a car door slamming, footsteps in the hallway, made me think she was coming back. But the door never opened. By noon, my phone buzzed. A single message from Mia lit up the screen. I need time. Those 3 words shattered me more than any argument could. I wanted to call her, to beg her to understand, but what could I say? Please don't leave me. I only wear dresses when you're not home. Even in my own head, it sounded pathetic. I sat there for hours, replaying the look on her face when she saw the dress. It wasn't disgust. It was heartbreak. And somehow that was worse. By evening, I finally moved, slow, mechanical. I packed the clothes back into the box, one by one, as if I were burying a part of myself. But when I reached for the blue dress, my fingers froze. It still smelled faintly of lavender, and something else, freedom. I couldn't put it away. Not this time. Instead, I stood up and hung it on the wardrobe door. It swayed gently in the dim light, like it was waiting for me to make a choice. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about Mia, about the baby, about the life we'd built, and the version of me that didn't fit inside it anymore. Was I really that person she thought she married? Or was that just the costume I wore every day? When I finally fell asleep, I dreamed of her, standing in the doorway, her face unreadable. In her hands, the same dress, but torn in half. When I woke up, I couldn't breathe. 3 days passed before I heard her voice again. I was sitting on the couch, staring blankly at a cup of cold coffee, when the door unlocked. Mia? She walked in quietly, her expression tired but calmer than before. She didn't look at me right away. Instead, her eyes went straight to the wardrobe, to the dress still hanging there. So, she said softly, you didn't hide it again.
No.
Her lips pressed into a thin line. Good. I swallowed. I didn't know what else to do. You could have told me. I was scared. She finally turned to face me. Of what? That I'd leave you. Yes. Her eyes softened, but only a little. Ayan, I married you because you were honest. Because you weren't like other people who pretend. And now you've been pretending all this time. I wasn't pretending, I said quickly. I was just trying to protect what we had. By hiding who you are? The question hit like a slap. I looked down, ashamed. I don't even know who I am anymore. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she sighed and sat down across from me. Then maybe that's where we start. Finding out. Her tone wasn't cruel. It was resigned, like someone who had been fighting an invisible storm and finally stopped. I don't want to lose you, I whispered. You might not, she said quietly, but we can't go back to what we were. That truth sank deep. She stood, walked to the wardrobe, and touched the dress. This isn't just a secret, Ayan. It's a part of you. I see that now. She turned back to me. But you have to decide what you want from this, from us, from yourself. Her voice trembled slightly at the last word. I wanted to answer. I wanted to say I'd stop, that I'd burn everything if it meant keeping her. But when I opened my mouth, nothing came out, because deep down I knew I couldn't. She watched me struggle, and her eyes softened again. I don't hate you, she said quietly. I just don't understand you. Not yet. I took a breath. Then let me help you.
How?
Let me show you. Her brows furrowed. Show me?
Yes.
No more hiding. No more lies. I hesitated, then added, tonight. She studied me for a long moment, trying to read my face. You mean you'll wear it? In front of me. I nodded slowly. The words hung between us like fragile glass. After a few seconds, she nodded. All right. Tonight. Then she turned and walked into the other room, leaving me alone again. But this time, the silence felt different. Not final. As the sun went down, I stood in front of the mirror. My hands shook as I held the blue dress. The last time I wore it, it was in secret, a whisper of rebellion. But tonight, it felt heavier, like a confession stitched into silk. I slipped it on, my reflection transforming with each slow motion. The fabric hugged me softly, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I was hiding from her. I was stepping toward her. When I finished, I looked at myself, really looked. The person in the mirror wasn't just a man in a dress. There was something else there, softer, freer, maybe even whole. And for the first time, I didn't hate what I saw. A quiet knock pulled me out of my thoughts. Mia stood at the doorway, hesitant. Her eyes flicked over me, then lingered, not with disgust, but curiosity. We stared at each other for what felt like a lifetime. Finally, she whispered, You look different. Bad different. I asked. She shook her head slowly.
No.
Just honest. Something in my chest cracked open. She stepped closer, still unsure, still guarded, but there was no anger in her eyes now, only 1,000 unspoken questions. I wanted to reach for her, but I didn't move. Her voice was soft. I don't know if I can understand this yet, Ayan. But I see you. And somehow, that was enough to make my eyes burn. We stood there in silence, a fragile truce, a beginning wrapped inside the end of something else. For the first time in days, I didn't feel ashamed. The fear was still there, yes, but so was something stronger. Hope. The clock ticked slowly in the living room as the air thickened between us. Mia sat across from me, her knees pulled up, eyes flicking between my face and the blue dress I still wore. Every second felt fragile, like one wrong word could shatter whatever thread held us together. She broke the silence first. So, how long? Her tone wasn't accusatory, just quiet, steady, but the weight of the question still cut through me. I took a deep breath. A few months. She blinked, her jaw tightening. And all this time, you never told me? I wanted to, I said. Every time you went out, every time I opened the closet, I thought, today. I'll tell her today. But then I'd see you smile, or talk about the baby, and I'd freeze. I didn't want to ruin everything. Her gaze softened for a moment, but then she shook her head. You didn't ruin everything by wearing a dress, Ayan. You ruined it by not trusting me. The truth of that hit deep. I didn't even trust myself, I whispered. Her eyes met mine, tired, searching. Do you like this? I mean, being like this? Yes, I said before I could stop myself. The word came out trembling but real. I like it because it feels like me. I know it sounds crazy, but when I dress like this, I don't feel trapped in the same way. It's not about pretending, it's about being. She leaned back slowly, absorbing my words. And what about me? Where do I fit in this version of you? The question twisted something in my chest. You're still everything, I said softly. You're the only reason I ever tried to be stronger, braver. But this part of me doesn't cancel that out. I just didn't know how to make them fit together. Mia looked away, pressing her fingers to her temples as if she was trying to quiet a storm inside her mind. I need to understand this, she murmured, because right now, all I can think about is our child, and how this changes everything. Her words landed like a knife. I wanted to argue, to tell her it didn't change anything, but deep down I knew it did. It changed me. The sound of thunder rolled in the distance. The storm that had been building all evening finally began to pour, rain hammering against the windows. Mia stood up suddenly, pacing. You say it's who you are, but what if it's just a phase? What if it's something you'll regret later? I stood too, voice rising with desperation. You think I haven't asked myself that every single day? You think I want to be this confused? She turned sharply, her voice trembling. Then why can't you stop? I paused, because the truth was simple. Because I feel alive when I'm like this. That admission hung between us like lightning, bright, dangerous, impossible to ignore. She looked at me as if seeing a stranger. Alive, she repeated softly. And what about when you're with me? Are you alive then? I took a step closer. When I'm with you, I feel loved. But when I'm like this, I feel whole. Her breath caught. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. I don't know if I can compete with that. It's not a competition, I said quickly. It's just both parts of me fighting to exist. Her voice cracked. And where does that leave us? The storm outside thundered louder, as if answering for me. I didn't have an answer. Instead, I looked at her, really looked, and saw how tired she was. How much she'd tried to understand, even when I'd made it impossible. I love you, I whispered. She stared at me, eyes glistening. Then prove it.
How?
She hesitated, then said the one thing I didn't expect. Take it off. The words hit harder than any shout could have. She crossed her arms, her face unreadable. If you love me, if you want to fix this, then take off the dress. Right now. My throat went dry. For a long moment, I couldn't move. The fabric clung to me, warm and soft, almost alive. Taking it off suddenly felt like peeling off a layer of myself. Mia? Please, she said, her voice trembling now. Just take it off. I need to see that you still choose us. Tears stung my eyes as I reached for the zipper. The sound of it sliding down filled the room like thunder. I slipped the dress off slowly, my body shaking, not from cold, but from loss. When it fell to the floor, I felt exposed, raw, empty. Mia turned away, covering her mouth. Maybe she expected relief, but instead, her shoulders began to tremble. When she finally turned back, her face was wet with tears. You did it, she whispered. But you look broken. I am, I said, because you asked me to kill a part of myself. She took a shaky breath. I didn't want to kill it. I just wanted to know if I still mattered. Her honesty hit me harder than anything else. I took a hesitant step forward. You matter more than anyone. But I can't pretend anymore, Mia. I can't choose between you and me. For a moment, she said nothing. Then, slowly, she reached down, picked up the dress, and held it out to me. Then maybe, she said softly, we figure this out together. I froze. What? Her voice broke. I don't understand this. I don't even know how to feel about it. But I can't stand watching you destroy yourself. She placed the dress in my hands. If this is part of you, then I need to see that part too. The sound of the rain softened, like even the storm outside was listening. I looked at her, speechless. She took a deep breath. We'll take it slow. I'll try. For you, and for our baby. My throat tightened, and I couldn't hold it anymore. I pulled her into a trembling hug. She hesitated for a second before wrapping her arms around me, pressing her forehead to my shoulder. We'll figure it out, she whispered. Somehow. Outside, thunder faded into silence. The storm had broken. But inside, something new was just beginning. The storm outside faded into the kind of silence that carries too much meaning. Every drop that still tapped against the window sounded like a heartbeat, ours, out of sync but still alive. Mia's head rested against my shoulder for a moment before she pulled away. Her eyes were red, her mascara faintly smudged. She looked both fragile and fierce, like someone fighting to rebuild from the ashes. "Let's just sit," she whispered. We sat side by side on the couch, the blue dress lying between us. Neither of us spoke. It felt like the kind of peace that wasn't real, just a pause between two storms. I wanted to say something comforting, but my mind was blank. The only thing I could do was reach for her hand. She didn't pull away. "I don't know how to make this work," I said softly. "But I don't want to lose you." Mia nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the dress. "I don't either. I need to believe we can still have a family after all this." Her words hit like a whisper of guilt. I'd been so caught up in my fear, in my identity, that I'd almost forgotten what she was carrying, our baby. "Are you okay?" I asked. She hesitated. Physically, yes. Emotionally, she trailed off, staring into the distance. "When I saw you that day, in the dress, I thought I was losing the father of my child." I swallowed hard. "You're not." She turned to look at me. "Then tell me, what are you? Because right now, I don't know who I'm sitting next to." The question made my heart race. "I'm still me, Mia. The person you fell in love with. The one who makes your tea too sweet, who worries too much, who wanted this baby as much as you did." Her eyes softened slightly. I took a breath. "But there's another part of me, one I kept locked away because I thought it didn't belong in the world we were building." She reached out, tracing her fingers along the hem of the blue dress. "And now I think it has to belong," I said. "Because if I keep burying it, I'll disappear too." The rain stopped completely, leaving behind the faint hum of the city. For a moment, everything felt still. Mia leaned back, closing her eyes. "You know what's crazy?" "What?" "I don't hate you for this." I blinked. "You don't." She shook her head.
No.
"I hate that you didn't tell me sooner. I hate that you thought I couldn't handle it. But seeing you tonight broken, honest, I realized something."
What?
"You've been living in fear for so long, Ayan. And I don't want our child growing up watching you hate yourself." Her words pierced straight through me. Tears blurred my vision before I could stop them. "I don't want that either," I whispered. She gave a sad little smile. "Then we start over. From honesty this time." I nodded, unable to speak. She looked down at the dress again and picked it up, running her fingers across the soft fabric. "You really love this, don't you?" "It's not the dress," I said. "It's what it lets me feel free." She smiled faintly, bittersweet. "Freedom looks beautiful on you." For a moment, I almost believed everything could be okay, that we could make this work. But then, Mia's expression shifted, something unreadable passing over her face.
Mia?
I asked. She stood suddenly, pressing a hand to her stomach. She stopped, her breathing quickening. My heart lurched. "What's wrong?" She shook her head, one hand gripping the edge of the couch. "It's just a cramp. It's fine." I rushed to her side. "Sit down. You shouldn't be standing." She sank back onto the couch, eyes squeezed shut. A sheen of sweat glistened on her forehead. "Mia, talk to me." After a long moment, she opened her eyes, and there it was. That look.
Fear.
The same kind I'd seen in the mirror so many times, now staring back at me from her face. "Ayan," she whispered. "What if something's wrong?" My chest tightened. No, don't think like that. You're okay. The baby's okay." But her hand was trembling. "I'm 8 weeks," she murmured, voice barely audible. "It's still early. Anything can happen." I felt my pulse race. "We're going to the hospital."
Now.
She shook her head weakly. "No, it's probably nothing. Mia," I said firmly, grabbing her coat. "We're not taking chances." The ride to the hospital felt endless. The rain had stopped, but the streets glistened under the streetlights. I kept glancing at her in the passenger seat, pale, quiet, her hands folded over her stomach. When we finally reached the emergency room, everything became a blur of fluorescent lights, medical forms, and sterile hallways. They took her in for an ultrasound while I waited outside, pacing back and forth. Every second dragged like a year. When the doctor finally came out, my breath caught.
She's stable, he said.
Relief flooded me. But she needs rest. Stress can make things complicated this early on. I nodded rapidly. Thank you. Can I see her? He gestured toward the room. Just for a few minutes. I pushed open the door quietly. Mia was lying on the bed, her face pale but calm now. When she saw me, she smiled weakly. They said the baby's fine, she whispered. I let out a shaky breath, feeling the tension finally break. You scared me. She chuckled softly. You scare me all the time. I took her hand. We'll get through this. I promise. She nodded, closing her eyes. Just no more secrets, okay? No more, I said. Her hand tightened around mine. And, Ayan? Yes. She opened her eyes again, tired but steady. When the baby's old enough to ask who their father is, she paused, smiling faintly. Promise me you'll tell them the truth. The whole truth. Tears slipped down my cheeks. I promise. She squeezed my hand again, and for the first time in weeks, there was peace in her touch. But as I sat there, watching her breathe, one thought lingered quietly in the back of my mind. If honesty had saved us this time, what else would it reveal later? The hospital room was quiet except for the rhythmic beeping of the monitor. Mia's breathing had steadied, and the faint smile on her lips told me she was finally asleep. I sat beside her bed, holding her hand, watching the dim light spill across her face. But inside, I couldn't rest. Her words echoed in my head. Tell them the whole truth. The truth. That word had destroyed and rebuilt us in the same night. And yet, there were still layers of it I hadn't peeled back, truths even I hadn't dared to face. When the nurse came in to check her vitals, I stepped out into the corridor. The floor smelled faintly of antiseptic and rain, and the hum of the vending machine at the end of the hall sounded louder than it should have. I leaned against the wall, my reflection in the glass door across from me distorted, ghostly. I saw both versions of myself, the one Mia loved and the one she was still learning to understand. And for the first time, I didn't know which one I truly was anymore. A sudden vibration in my pocket startled me. My phone lit up, a message from Mia's doctor. Can you come by my office for a quick chat? It's about Mia's results. My stomach turned. The words, about Mia's results, always sounded dangerous. When I entered the office, the doctor looked up from the computer, her expression unreadable. Ayan, right? Please have a seat. I sat, heart pounding. There's nothing to panic about, she started gently, but there is something unusual. I froze. Unusual how? She turned the monitor slightly toward me. The ultrasound image glowed faintly on the screen. You mentioned Mia is 8 weeks pregnant, correct? Yes. She nodded. That's what makes this interesting. The ultrasound shows she's about that far along, but based on the hormone levels in her blood, she's closer to 12. 12. I repeated, confused. The doctor nodded again. It could be an error in dating, or it could mean she conceived earlier than she thought. I'll need to ask her a few questions when she's awake. The words hung between us like a blade. Earlier than she thought. A strange, cold feeling spread through my chest. Wait, I said carefully. You mean before? The doctor raised a hand. It's too early to assume anything, but we'll confirm with a follow-up test. Try not to worry her yet, all right? I nodded numbly and left the room. But worry was already clawing its way through me. When I returned to Mia's room, she was awake. The faint morning light filtered through the blinds, painting soft lines across her pale face. Where were you? She asked quietly. I went to talk to the doctor, I said. Her brows furrowed. Is something wrong? I hesitated. I wanted to protect her, to hold her, to tell her everything was fine. But after everything we'd gone through, lies weren't an option anymore. They said something about the dates. I said finally. They think the pregnancy might be a little further along. Her eyes widened slightly. Further? Yeah, I said, my voice shaking despite me trying to keep it steady. Maybe 12 weeks. Her lips parted, but no words came out. For a long moment, the silence between us was unbearable. Then she whispered, "That's not possible." Something inside me cracked. "What do you mean?" Her gaze dropped to her hands. "Because you and I didn't." She stopped herself, biting her lip. I stared at her. Didn't what? Her eyes glistened, and I could see the guilt forming in them like a storm ready to break. "Mia," I said, my voice low, "tell me the truth." She shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Ayan, please. Tell me." She broke. The words came out in a trembling whisper. "When you started changing, when you became distant, I thought I was losing you. I didn't know how to reach you anymore. I made a mistake." My world tilted. She covered her face, sobbing softly. "It was only once. I regretted it the same day. I thought it would mean nothing. And then, I found out I was pregnant." I stepped back as if she'd struck me. "So you lied," I said, voice shaking. "You let me believe this baby was ours." "I wanted it to be," she cried. "I didn't even want to think about who. I just wanted us to stay together. You were changing, and I was scared you'd stop wanting this life with me. I thought maybe the baby could fix it." I felt the walls closing in. My pulse roared in my ears. "Fix it?" I laughed bitterly. "You lied to me about the one thing that mattered most, and you thought it would fix us?" She sobbed harder, reaching for me. "Please, Ayan, I didn't mean to hurt you." "Don't." I stepped back again. "Don't touch me." The room felt like it was spinning. She tried to stand, but her body was too weak. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I was scared." "So was I said. "But I didn't destroy you to feel safe." Her eyes met mine, red and broken. "Then go. If that's what you want, go." "But I swear, Ayan, I never stopped loving you." I stared at her, my heart tearing itself apart inside my chest. The woman I loved, the life we built, the child we dreamed of, all of it had turned into something unrecognizable. And yet, I couldn't move, because even through the betrayal, the anger, the confusion, I still loved her. That was the worst part. Finally, I whispered, "I need time." Her shoulders slumped as tears ran silently down her face. "Then take it." I turned and walked out, the blue dress still in my hand, the symbol of who I'd become, and what I was now leaving behind. Outside, the sun was rising, washing the city in pale gold. I stood there for a moment, feeling the warmth on my face, breathing in the air like it might give me an answer. I looked down at the dress, fingers trembling. In the reflection of the hospital's glass doors, I saw both versions of me, the man who loved her and the person who could never be what she wanted. And for the first time, I realized, maybe I wasn't meant to be either. Maybe I was something in between. Someone new. The silence after the test result felt heavier than anything Alex had ever experienced. The room seemed to hold its breath. The small, digital screen on the pregnancy test blinked once more, and then, in clear, cold letters, it read, "Pregnant, 8 weeks." His heart stopped. Then it started racing uncontrollably, pounding in his ears like thunder. He backed away, his knees shaking as the test slipped from his trembling fingers and clattered against the tiles. "This can't be real," he whispered, voice trembling. "It's not possible. It's a joke, right?" But there it was. The evidence, unblinking, undeniable. Mia stood frozen, eyes wide with disbelief and something else, something deeper, almost afraid. "Alex," she whispered, her voice breaking, "how could this be? You're not even."
He couldn't respond. His throat had gone dry.
Every thought in his mind tangled into panic, shame, and something far stranger, confusion that felt almost cosmic. Mia reached for him, but he flinched back instinctively, tears springing to his eyes. "Don't," he gasped. "Please don't." But she didn't listen. She crossed the space between them, grabbing his hands and holding them tightly. Alex, look at me, she said, her voice quivering. We'll figure this out, okay? Just breathe. Tell me what's happening. You haven't been feeling normal lately. You've been. Her eyes dropped to his chest, to the soft curves that hadn't been there before. Her gaze lingered on his flushed skin, the feminine shape beneath the robe, and her breath caught. Oh my God. Alex turned away, ashamed. I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't want any of this. I just wanted to try. I wanted to understand how it felt to be her. Mia's lips trembled. Be who? He met her gaze. His eyes were red, terrified, but beneath that, there was something like surrender. Her. The girl I saw in the mirror. The one I kept becoming. Every time I dressed up, every time I wore that wig, I felt her, and now, he choked out a laugh, half mad, half broken. Now she's the one standing here, not me. Mia shook her head, tears filling her eyes. You're scaring me, Alex. You're talking like I'm not me, he interrupted softly. Maybe I'm not. A distant rumble of thunder echoed outside, rattling the window. The storm had returned, mirroring the chaos inside. Mia tried to steady herself. We're going to a doctor. Right now. Alex didn't move. And what will I tell them, Mia? That your boyfriend, your cross-dressing boyfriend, is 8 weeks pregnant. His laugh was hollow, despairing. They'll lock me up. Or worse, they'll think it's all in my head. Mia's tears fell freely now. Then I'll tell them the truth, she said fiercely. Whatever this is, whatever's happening, I'm not leaving you. But her voice broke on the last word, betraying her own doubt. Alex turned toward the mirror again. The woman staring back looked fragile, yet hauntingly real, soft, vulnerable, almost glowing beneath the bathroom light. He touched his reflection gently, fingertips brushing against the cold glass. 8 weeks, he whispered. That's when everything started. That night. When I wore the new dress. When we... Mia's eyes widened. No. You don't think. He looked back at her. Do you remember what you said that night? His voice shook. You told me to be her completely. You said you wanted to see me surrender, to feel it. And I did. I don't know how, but something changed that night. Mia stepped back, her hand flying to her mouth. Stop. This is insane. Is it? Alex snapped, tears streaming down his face. Then tell me why I feel this way. Tell me why I've been sick every morning. Why my clothes don't fit. Why I can't stop crying, or why my body, he broke off, clutching his abdomen, trembling. Why my body feels like it's not mine anymore. Mia didn't respond. Her face had gone pale. A faint sound interrupted them, a knock on the door. They both froze. Alex, a voice called softly from outside. It was their neighbor, Mrs. Walker, the one who'd seen Alex earlier, fully dressed as a woman. Honey, I think you dropped something outside. Are you okay, dear? Mia's head snapped toward Alex, her eyes filled with panic. She saw you. Alex swallowed hard. She saw her. Another knock. Alex? Sweetheart, I can come in if you need. Mia ran to the door. No. We're fine, Mrs. Walker, she shouted, her voice cracking. Please, just go home. The sound of retreating footsteps followed, but the damage was done. Mia turned back, her breathing ragged. Alex, listen to me. You can't let anyone see like this again. Not until we figure this out. Alex nodded numbly. But inside, he knew there was no going back. He walked to the bathroom sink, picked up the pregnancy test, and stared at it one more time. 8 weeks, he whispered again, the words barely audible. It's been her all along. Mia reached for him again, desperate. Alex, please. But he pulled away slowly, his voice eerily calm now. No, Mia. You said you wanted to see me be her completely. And now you're going to. Before she could speak, Alex turned and walked toward the bedroom, the silk robe swaying gently, his figure moving with a grace that no longer looked like pretense. The transformation was complete. The final shot lingers on the mirror, the reflection showing not Alex, but the woman entirely, her soft hand cradling her stomach, her lips curling into a faint, bittersweet smile. On-screen text. 8 weeks. But what happens in 9? The next morning dawned quiet, too quiet. The city outside still glistened with leftover rain, and the sound of cars on wet asphalt echoed faintly through the half-open window. Mia woke up alone. For a moment, she thought maybe it had all been a nightmare. The pregnancy test, the confession, the storm, the reflection that wasn't quite Alex anymore. But when she turned her head, the space beside her was empty. The sheets were cold. "Alex," she called softly. No answer. She got up, her heart racing. The bathroom door stood ajar, and the faint smell of perfume, the same one Alex had bought secretly weeks ago, lingered in the air. The vanity was a mess. Foundation smeared across the counter, a wig half slid off its stand, mascara tubes and false lashes scattered like evidence of another life. Mia's gaze caught on the mirror. There was a message written in lipstick, faint but clear. "Don't look for me. She needs me now." Her stomach twisted. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "No, no, no." She rushed into the living room. Alex's phone was gone. The closet door was open, and half the clothes, the dresses, the shoes, the makeup, all missing. The only thing left was the test, sitting neatly on the coffee table beside a folded note. Mia's hands trembled as she opened it.
"Mia?"
"You told me once that everyone has a truth they're afraid to see. I think I finally saw mine last night. I don't know how this happened or why, but I feel alive. Like I'm not pretending anymore. Like this was who I was supposed to be. If this is madness, then let me live it. If this is a curse, then it's one I chose. Please don't try to find me. Not yet.
Love.
Alex, or maybe not Alex anymore." Mia sank onto the couch, the letter trembling in her hands. "What have I done?" she whispered. Her phone buzzed suddenly. A text from an unknown number. "Unknown. Heard you're looking for someone." "Mia. Who is this?" "Unknown. Someone who saw her." Her blood ran cold. "Her," she murmured aloud. "Mia, what do you mean? Who did you see?" No reply. Just a second message. "Unknown. 8 weeks. The cycle completes soon." The phone slipped from her hand. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, a woman walked through the marketplace, her hair tied neatly in a soft bun, a floral dress swaying gently as she moved. No one would have recognized her as Alex. Not anymore. She smiled politely at a shopkeeper, her voice light, graceful. "Thank you," she said softly, and even she was startled by how natural it sounded. How right. But as she moved between stalls, something in her chest twisted. A flicker of pain. A strange pulse beneath her skin. She stopped beside a fruit stand, pressing her hand against her abdomen. "Not again," she whispered. The same sensation she'd felt weeks ago returned, a slow, deep warmth inside, like something was alive within her. The old woman running the stall looked at her curiously. "You okay, dear?" She nodded quickly, forcing a smile. "Yes, just morning sickness." The woman chuckled softly. I remember those days. You'll be fine. You're glowing, sweetheart. How far along?" The words made her breath hitch. 8 weeks, she said without thinking, and the moment the number left her lips, something inside her shifted. The sound around her dimmed. The world blurred. And she heard it. Faint but unmistakable, a heartbeat. Not hers. Her hand flew to her stomach, tears springing to her eyes. "No," she gasped. "It's real." Mia couldn't sleep that night. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the lipstick message that refused to fade. Every sound made her jump. Every shadow looked like a silhouette. When her phone buzzed again, she nearly screamed. It was another text. "Unknown. Look outside." Heart hammering, she walked to the window. Across the street, under the flickering streetlight, stood a woman, familiar in a way that made her breath catch. The same hair, the same delicate posture, the same soft robe from the night before. "Alex," she whispered. But as the woman lifted her face toward the window, the expression wasn't one of recognition. It was calm, almost serene, and utterly otherworldly. Her hand rested protectively over her stomach. Then she smiled, faint, wistful, and whispered something Mia couldn't hear. A car passed. When the headlights swept the street, the woman was gone. Only the faintest whisper of perfume lingered in the night air. 3 days later, Mia found herself driving aimlessly. She'd barely eaten, barely slept. She just needed to do something, anything, to find answers. She ended up at the small apartment where an old friend of Alex's used to live, Ryan, the one who'd known about Alex's secret interests before she did. When Ryan opened the door, his face fell. "Mia, what are you doing here?" "I need to talk about Alex," she said breathlessly. Ryan's jaw tightened. "You mean her?" Mia froze. "What do you mean, her?" He hesitated, then stepped aside. "You better come in." Inside, the apartment was dimly lit. On the coffee table lay several photos, pictures of Alex dressed up, smiling in wigs, skirts, and makeup. But one photo caught Mia's eye, one she'd never seen before. In it, Alex wasn't just posing. She was holding something small, an ultrasound picture. Mia's voice cracked. "Where did this come from?" Ryan sighed heavily. "He sent it to me 2 weeks ago." 2 weeks, she whispered. "But that's before the test, before the mirror." "I know," Ryan said quietly. "He told me strange things were happening. Said he could feel things changing in him. Said sometimes he'd wake up and not recognize the face in the mirror. I thought he was losing it." Mia stared at the photo. Her fingers trembled. What if he wasn't? Ryan didn't answer. Outside, thunder rolled again. Later that night, Mia returned home and stood in front of the bathroom mirror, the same one Alex had stared into countless times. The air felt heavy, electric. She touched the cold surface. "Alex," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "If you can hear me, please come back." Her reflection blinked. But she didn't. A soft voice echoed through the room, one that wasn't entirely hers. "She's not coming back, Mia." Her breath caught. Who are you?" The reflection smiled sadly. "You called her Alex. But she calls herself something else now. She's part of something bigger. Something you wouldn't understand." Mia stepped back, trembling. "Where is she?" "Inside," the reflection whispered. "And soon she won't be alone." A faint glow appeared beneath the surface of the mirror, soft, pulsing, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. Mia screamed, but her voice was swallowed by the sound of that pulse. The lights flickered. The air turned cold. And for a brief, horrifying second, she saw the reflection not as herself, but as the woman Alex had become, standing tall, serene, and visibly pregnant. Then the mirror cracked.
Darkness.
1 month later, a news report played faintly on the radio. "Local woman still missing, last seen near Willow Street Market. Police have no leads." Mia turned off the radio, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. In the passenger seat beside her was a small box. Inside it, a folded note in Alex's handwriting. 8 weeks was just the beginning. Mia's phone buzzed once more. Another message from the unknown number. "Unknown. 9 weeks now." She dropped the phone. Her breath quickened. From the mirror on the car door, a faint shimmer caught her eye, the reflection of a woman smiling softly, her hand resting protectively on her belly.